Welcome to my introduction to HTML and CSS video. Rather than going over the basics, this is going to be more of a crash course. So we're going to make this two-column website right here. These are going to be links to different social media pages. We're going to have a navigation bar on the left-hand side that links to different sections of the pages. And we're going to have pictures and video and an email me link. Now all you need to do this, hang on a sec. All you need to do this is use a simple text editor, which is probably already on your computer. But if you don't have one, if you're on a Mac, you want to Google Text Wrangler and you can download it for free. And that's what I'm using here. If you're on a PC, you want to get Notepad++. But for Mac, you probably already have TextEdit, and for Windows, you already have Notepad. All of the image links are uploaded to my website, so you don't need any images. So the first thing we're going to do is save a HTML file. So we're going to call it index.html and save it to your desktop. Now we're going to go over to our browser, and I'm using Chrome. And as I said, all the images are going to be uploaded to this little blog I started. And I'll put a link to this blog post so you can get the URLs in the description of the video. Now what I'm going to do is open up that index.html file on our desktop. And you shouldn't see anything, but you'll see the file extension as the URL, but I have mine blocked out. So the first thing we need to do to start an HTML document is lay out the basic body. So this is what's called a tag with opening and closing brackets. And then to end the tag, you just put a slash before the element. So in between our HTML tags, we're going to have first a head section, and then we're going to have a body section. And be sure to put a / in to close out the tag. Now in the body section, this is where all of the content will display. And let's see, the head will also display, but we don't want to put our content in there. So the first thing we should do is create a title for the page. So we're going to create a title tag, and just whatever you want to call your website, type it in here in between the title tags, and I'll show you where it's going to show up on the website. So go back over to Chrome, and as you can see up top, this is where the title tag information will show up. Now what we're going to do is tell our browser what type of language our content will be in. So lang equals signs quotation en for English. Some might use en/US for English United States. Then at the top, we're going to do the HTML5 doc type header to tell our browser what standard of HTML we're using. But this is mostly going to be HTML4 stuff. I'll be making an HTML5 series soon. Now we're going to tell our browser what type of characters we're going to be using in the HTML. So we're going to say meta charset UTF-8, which is the kind of the universal Unicode text. And the next thing we're going to do is we're going to create a style section, and this is where the CSS is going to go. So we're going to have an internal style sheet rather than linking to a different file, which would be an external style sheet. So instead of laying out all the HTML first and then coming back and doing all the style, what we're going to do is we're going to style it as we go and work down the page. So the first thing we're going to style is the actual body of the HTML document. So we're going to give it a background color. And I already have a color picked out, so it's going to be CBBB9B. So let's go over to the document and refresh it. And there's the kind of cream-like color I picked, going for earth tones. So now we're going to tell it that we want the margin to be 0 and the padding to be 0. Now I'm going to tell it what type of font we want to use. And we're going to use Arial, or Helvetica. Now if you don't know what margin and padding are, basically if you take a paragraph section of a page in an HTML document, around the border, if you set a border to it, you set space outside of the border, and that's going to be the margin. If you set space in between the text and the border on the inside, that's going to be the padding. So the first thing we're going to create is the wrapper, which is basically going to be the outline of the page itself, and the body is sort of the background. So we're going to say div ID wrapper, close the div, and a div is basically just a section of the page you're creating and designating to certain HTML elements. And you have div IDs and div classes. An ID you only use once on the page, and a class you use multiple times. So to write a secret little note in HTML, you just had to put the exclamation point after the first bracket, and then you can write this text out and it won't show up on the document. So I'm going to create little notes like this. Whoops. Refresh the page. Nothing should show up. Okay. So I'm going to be creating little notes like that so we know where the div section ends. Now we're going to create a style for the wrapper. So for a div ID, you use the pound sign, and for a div class, you use a period. So wrapper. First thing we're going to do is we're going to give it a width. And I'm going to make it 960 pixels. Now we're going to give it a height. And I'm going to say the height is auto, so the page flexes with the content. Now let's give it a background color. So the hex value I'm going to use is pound D A D 5C1. Now nothing's going to show up if we refresh the page now because we don't have any content to create space. But before we create the content, let's give it the border. So I'm going to say border / left 5 pixels solid, and the hex value will be pound A 09885. And we're going to do the same thing for the right side, so we can just copy and paste this and change it to border right. Now let's tell it overflow auto. So there's 3 different kinds of overflow. There's also scroll and hidden. So if the content expands further than the height and width with scroll, the page will kind of scroll, and with hidden, not all the content will show. So we'll just tell it auto, so all the content shows. And then I give it a margin and padding. So make sure you give it padding of 10 pixels. Now if we put a little bit of content in the wrapper, you'll start to see the page take form here with the borders in the different color. Actually, the flex earlier with the body, the margin and padding, doesn't make the wrapper stay in the same section. What does is that margin 0 auto. So we need to close that tag, and then we could see it take full effect. Now when we expand the page, it should stay in the center. And by the way, the /BR is just a line break. which sometimes you use in paragraphs because HTML doesn't recognize spaces or enter or return. So let's take out this stuff inside the wrapper. And what we're going to do is create the header. So div ID, header, close the div. Now we're going to write our secret message out, reminding us that's the end of the header. So the first thing we're going to do inside of the header is we're going to create another div for the logo, so we can separate the logo and the social navigation. But first, let's give this header a width and height, and let's give it the border at the bottom. So width, do 100%, so it's full 960. Height, let's do 100 pixels. And now let's do border bottom, and we're going to create a different type of border color than that of the wrapper. So we'll do 3 pixels, solid, hex value pound 7C7063. There we go. Starting to take form a little bit. So now let's go down and let's create that logo div. Okay. Once again, our secret HTML message. End of logo. And now inside of the logo div, let's put our first image in there. So img space src. So image source equals parentheses. Now we want to put the URL in of our first image, which is the logo. So we'll go over to my little blog post. And I have them in order. So the first URL here. Now we need to add, I need to add HTTP. Okay, and parentheses. Now we're going to give the logo a width. A width of 350 pixels, and then the height pixels. Now what we're going to do is give the image an ulterior name. So alt equals logo. So if the image doesn't show up for some reason, it will say logo. And now the title, say logo. So when you hover over the image, I'm going to call it boxer dogs. So when you hover over the image, the little yellow box will display. Here we go. Now let's position our logo. So the first style we're going to give it is, we're going to tell it to float left, which is really inherent. So if there's a element, you can either have it float to the left or the right of the page. But it's good practice to, at least with HTML4, to tell it which way to go. At least I think. So now we're going to give it a margin. So there's 4 different let's give it more. There's 4 different numbers you can give for margin and padding. The first being the top, second being the right, third bottom, and fourth left. So it goes clockwise. So 20 pixels from the top. Actually, let's 20 pixels. Go 0 from the right, 0 from the bottom, and 80 from the left. There we go. Change it to 15. So the next thing we're going to do is create our social icons div. So let's go back down, and inside the header div ID, we'll create div ID social. And close the div. Now inside of the social div ID, what we're going to create is an unordered list. So if you have different images or text that you want to line up, in certain ways. You want to create an unordered list. And then inside of an unordered list, you have list items. So this can be like a bullet point type thing, and you can have it display horizontally or vertically. So inside of the first list item, let's put our first social icon in. So we're gonna put I'm gonna put Facebook. So ahref, this is the actual link to Facebook, and then target is where the new page will show up. So target underscore blank will make it show up in a new window. As you can see. So, okay. So the next thing we want to do is add that Facebook icon image in there. So let's go back over to the blog post and get the URL for it. Now we're going to paste it in after image source. And we're going to close the image tag. Well, first let's give it an ulterior for Facebook and a title for Facebook like we did with the logo. Or alternate. Why am I saying ulterior? Now we can close the image tag, and we need to close the ahref tag, which is the link inside of the LA tag. Now let's save it, and let's go look at, see if it showed up. There we go. So obviously we need to add some style, and we need to do something to take the little bullet point away, which is inherent in list items. So let's create our social style. We're going to tell it to float right, because we want to position to the right side of the header. There we go. Now let's give it some margin. So let's do 20 pixels from the top. We'll do 30 from the right and 0 bottom and left. So that'll push it away from the sides a little bit. Now what we need to do is add style for the list items. So to do that, we need to go social ULLI, because that's the order in which the HTML elements are embedded. So let's just give them some, well, first let's tell them to float left so they display in the order in which we list them. We're going to say list style none, so the little bullet points don't show up. And let's give them some padding so they're not so close together once we add more images and links. So let's do 5 pixels. So padding right 5 pixels. Now let's copy and paste the rest of the social icons. So let's just paste this Facebook one, and then we'll change it to the different images and links. So there we go. Now let's give the image a size. So we want to do social image img, and let's make it a height and width of 55 pixels. There we go. So now let's change this first one to Twitter. And my little extension is Drew on Q. I think I have 1 follower, which is great. I don't think they know who I am. So Twitter again, and then you don't have to get the URL because I know it's just Twitter instead of Facebook.png. So refresh. There we go. So now let's copy and paste the rest of these. So after Twitter, we'll have YouTube. But let me just get them all laid out first. And I'll do one extra. A little self-promotion. So the third, as I said, is going to be YouTube. And I'll promote my page. Fourth is Google Plus. So plus.google.com. And the third, I'm going to do my newly found little blog, w3newbie.com. So this is going to be YouTube. This will be Google_plus. And this one might not be right. It's W3_icon instead of logo. So now let's change all of the alternate text and the titles. This will take a second. So refresh it. And there's my little logo I made. It doesn't go with the rest. I have, hopefully by the time you're seeing this, I have a few more YouTube people. That's me, Wayne Campbell. Alright, let me see what's next. So the next thing we're going to do is create the sidebar. So this is where we're going to put the little navigation that was on the left side of the screen. So div ID, sidebar, close the div, do our repetitive secret code here. Then, actually, do we want a style sidebar? First, let's create our menu div. Now inside of menu, we want to create another unordered list. So UL, and we'll close that out. Now let's create our first list item. Maybe we should just copy and paste all 4 of these. There's 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. So enter, paste, enter, paste, enter, paste. So our first list item, let's create an ahref. And since this is going to be an internal link, all we need to do is hit pound intro. And basically this is going to link to a different section of the page, so we'll see later how this all works out. So then we create the actual text intro, close the ahref tag, link tag, and now actually at the top in the header is where we're going to put a link. So the link to top thing that you saw in the web page. So a name equals top. Then we're going to close the A. Let me show you. So right here, the go to top thing, that's where it's going to go to. So you see it kind of goes right to the top of the header. There we go. Not quite to the top of the document, but to the top of the header. So let's copy and paste these so we can speed it up. And then we'll fill them out. So the second one is going to be dog size. So let's put size. Then food and play. Now we'll fill out the text that's actually going to display. So there we go. As you can see, they still show up as regular links and they have the bullet points, so we're going to have to make some changes here. So let's create some style for it. Let's first do sidebar. The sidebar div ID. There we go. Can't talk. So let's do float left. Let's give it a width of 275 pixels. And height, we could either do auto, or let's do 100%. Because I think the border might not extend all the way if it's... Anyways. So let's just see, just to see where it will display background color. So there's the width. Okay, let me take this off because that's very ugly. Next thing we want to do is do the menu div ID. So pound menu, and we'll actually wait. We'll do float left, height, auto. So flex height, and we'll do width. Let's do 200 pixels. Now, menu menu ULLI. This first one needs to be UL. Then this will be ULLI. So for the menu ULLI, let's do list style none to get rid of the dots. We'll give our, there. So these dots will disappear. Let's give it a padding of 5 pixels in between our list items. Spread them out a little bit. And text align, we'll do center. So there's a few different things you can do. Align paragraph. You can do justified, center, left, right, I think. So justified would be like a newspaper, but for right now we're going to do center. So the next thing we need to style are the links themselves. So we're going to do menu ULLI A for the ahref links. We're going to give them a background first. So background. And the hex value will be CBBB9B. So that'll be the same as the body background. Right here. There we go. Can't see much of it yet. I like to say there we go. Next, let's give the actual text color. So we'll write color, and the hex value for this will be 4E 4F 3E. And we need to get rid of that underline stuff. But first, let's get rid of that underline. So text decoration, none. Now it should take the underline away. Refresh. Wait. Did that? There we go. can't explain it. One other thing we should add is some padding. So let's give it 10 pixels and 0 pixels. Now, as I said before, when there are 4 elements, it's top, right, left, bottom. When there's 2, the first is top and bottom. The second is left and right. So let's go down, and we need to create a style for when the mouse hovers over it. So we'll do menu ULLIA hover, and that should be good. Wait. No, we don't need active because this is only a one-page HTML document. If you were linking to multiple pages and you want the top navigation to stay highlighted, you do active in addition to hover. But for now, let's just do the hover. So let's give it a color, hex value. Let's do white. So FFF. Now, we need to hang on. Now let's give it some size. Let's make these H2 tags. So this is a title tag. So you have H1 through H6, H1 being the biggest, H6 being the smallest. Let's call it H2. So there you can see it. So it's like a header 2. So let's just give these all H2 tags. Okay, refresh the page. And it's starting to take form, but we need this the width to come out with the background there. So to do that, let's go back up to our menu ULLIA and add display block. There we go. Looks good. Oh, we got food and play mixed up. It's pretty close. Food, play. All done. What's next? Let's see. We're almost coming up on an hour. I'm shocked if people are still watching this. The next thing we're going to do is create our content area where we're going to have our paragraphs and pictures and stuff. So we're going to do div ID content, and then let's close that div out. And the rest should go kind of quick. because we can do some copying pasting. So let's go ahead and give our content a little style. So pound content, let's see. And this is the content, obviously. So let's do float left. Let's give it a width of 655 pixels. And a height of 100%. Then we're going to give it some padding on the left so the paragraphs don't come over to that border. So let's do padding left. Well, let's see. See this section over here, right there. And on the right, all over. Oh, well, no, not on the right, because it's padding left. That's right. So padding left. "15 pixels. Let's give the paragraphs text some spacing. So we'll do letter spacing. Wait. No, let's just give it the color. No, let's do letter spacing. How about that? I can't make up my mind now, can I? Now let's give it the color. So let's do hex value pound 57. So we'll do 57, 57 for C. Border left. "3 pixels solid." This will be the same as the bottom for the header border. So, no, wrapper's not right. We want header. "7C 7063. So I'll just copy and paste it. So we don't have any content yet, so it's not going to show up. But let's go down to our content area. And let's put a little dummy text in here. Not real dummy text, but just a little bit of scribble in a paragraph tag. That's the P tag. So now that border will start to take form and we have the padding going for us. So what we want to do is do the links, so the navigation links to the different sections of the pages. Let's get that out of the way. So we'll do a name, intro, and now we can create the title of the section. So we're going to use a header tag. And instead of h2, I don't think anything will happen yet because we don't have our header. So instead of h2, let's do h1. That will be this thing here. And that'll be my boxer dog. Close the h1 tag. Now let's create an image tag. So we'll put the first image of my dog in there. So go over to the blog, and it will be that boxer1.png. So we'll give it the width 400, height 250, alternate text, boxer dog, title, boxer dog. Now close out the image tag, and let's go back and refresh the page. And there we go. There we go. Start to show up. Now let's create a paragraph area. So for this, we're going to go and get some dummy text. So Google dummy text, and this lorem ipsum Greek thing everyone uses for dummy text. We'll just copy and paste some of this in there. Let me make sure it makes sense. It. Refresh. There we go. So now let's go up, and first I think we should style that h1 tag so we can get it centered and give it a border underneath. So we'll put h1, and then we'll do text align center. We'll give it some padding of 5 pixels. so it's not sitting right on the line there. And next thing we want to do is give it the border. So we'll do border / bottom, and it's going to be the same color as this. So let's change it to bottom 1 pixel, and that's good. So refresh. Yes. So now the next thing we should do is let's just do the paragraph style. So we'll do text to indent, because let's see, yep, there's that upper indent. We'll do 50 pixels. And then let's do the line height to space it out, and we'll do 25 pixels. Refresh. That looks a little better. Still looks like this one's almost more spaced out. Let's add a little bit more. So I'm just going to copy some of this, and then, or actually I haven't, let me copy this, paste it. So now let's style the image. So img we'll tell it to float right. Refresh. There we go. Now let's make it so that text isn't right along the edge of the image. So let's give it some padding to the left and the bottom. So we'll go padding 0 pixels top, 0 pixels right, and 5 pixels bottom, 5 pixels left. That's a little better. Wonder what the text looks like if we do the justify like a newspaper. Let's get rid of it. So now let's see. I say let's just copy this section here, and then we'll paste it. Let me just take a minute to scroll here all the way over. Scrolling. 3, 2, 1. Yes. So copy this. That whole everything we have inside the content div for now, and then let's paste it so we can take up the different the 4 different sections of the page. I mean, that's one too many divs, so I need to delete this upper div. And I'll paste another section. Make sure there's a space in between each. Because we'll be filling that space in later with the link to different sections of the page. And that's good. So now let me just change this to the different sections. So size. So now let's change the well, we need to delete that bottom image, and we'll just change these different images to the other 2 that I have. So we'll change this height and width. So width 300, height 200. For the third one, height 260, width 430. That needs to be changed. I got the wrong. I need to do boxer 2 for that second one. Change the width. So we'll do width 350. That looks good. So now let's go ahead and we'll add the links to different pages like this. Well, it's already kind of in there, but we need to do the link to the top of the page. So we'll create a div class. So this will be our first div class, so we can use it in multiple different spots on the page. So we'll do div class equals, and we'll do top, close the div, and inside there we'll make this an H4, and we'll say a href inside there pound top And now we can have our text for that link. Go to top, or go to the top, exclamation point. And then we need to close that A for the link. And I'm just going to copy and paste this to the different sections. So we don't need one for the top, I don't think. Refresh. There we go. And let's just style that so it's not all blue and purple like. So we'll do top, we'll do dot because it's the class. Top A. Let's give it the color. So the hex value will be pound 4E 43 4E 4F 3E. And then let's tell it text decoration none, so it's not underlined. And we're not going to give it a hover or anything like that. Refresh. Actually, I think it's probably better if it's underlined, because it's hard to tell it's a link without underline. So now we're going to create this little table here and put the video in. Scrolling. So I'm going to delete some of this so it doesn't take up so much space. Now underneath the paragraph, we want to create our table. Give me a second. So we're going to create a div ID and call it table. And then close that div, secret message. And then inside of our table div, let's do table tag. And I'm going to give it a border inside of this table tag. Border 1. Close the table tag. And now we need to create the structure of the table. So we'll do tr. Inside the tr we'll have our th for table header. So just bear with me here. Create another tr section. And these should be, the first should be the th, and then for the headers, and then td. But I think I'll just say screw it and do all th. And the td is just like table data. Th is table header. And the tables act similar to list items. Some people use tables to do the same thing I did with the list items, I think. Refresh. And it looks decent. Now we'll go up and we'll do a little bit of table style. So let's move it to the center of the page with some margin. So we'll do margin 0, 0, 30 on the bottom, separate the video from it, and we'll do 175 on the left to kind of push it inward a little bit. And I forgot to end this content div. Well, give the message. So now I'm gonna put the video in. So over at the blog post, I have the little video link. Save and refresh this. Looks decent. I'll just push it to the center a little bit. So we'll do iframe, and then I'm just going to do it some margin left. Let's say 50 pixels. I need to put the go to top underneath this. But let's create our footer. Then this will be the last section. Thank goodness. I'd be shocked if people are still watching to this point. Congratulations. So for the inside the footer, I'm going to do an H5 tag. And this is where you can just name your website, I guess. And now let's do a line break. So well, hold up. We'll do the email thing first. So this will be a link to email someone. So ahref, we'll do mail to, I'll just use email@gmail.com. And then this will be the subject that will come in the email automatically. So boxer dogs. And then this will be the text for someone to click. Okay. So we want the we gotta do some footer styling. First, let's do that line break. So I'll go underneath. Now let's style the footer. So we can have that border. And I'm going to do clear both. So it will make it so nothing will be on either side of the footer content. It's really kind of unnecessary in this case. I don't know. So let's give it a width of 100%, so the full 960 pixels. We'll give it a height. Let's give it 80 pixels. Give the text the color. Same color as in the content area. And then let's give it that border on the top. So I'm just going to copy this H1 border, do a border top, and change it to 3 pixels. So now let's style the, or actually let's just make it so it floats to the center, so text align center for the text. So that H5. Okay. So refresh the page. And it looks pretty good, yeah. Go to top. We need to change that go to top to the bottom of that. Let's reposition that. So copy and delete it. And we'll put it right after this iframe. Save it, refresh. And make sure the send email works. So there's the email pop up. Link works. Excellent. I think that should do it. So now let me show you how, now that we've created a little website, if you want to get it onto your own domain name instead of having it on your local, I use Bluehost. So you can click, if you click the link on my little blog, let me show you something. It's usually $6.75 a month, but I'm going to change my link because there's a new WordPress link you can use. And let me show you. Refresh. I've refreshed the link. Let me re-click it. And it brings it down to $3.95 a month, and that's the lowest you can find for it. So I'd appreciate it if you needed hosting. Use the ad I have on my blog. So let me log in and show you how you can upload the website once you sign up with Bluehost. So you'll go into cPanel after you log in, and they give a free domain name when you sign up for hosting. So I think I got a 3-year plan for the $3.95 a year. So go into File Manager, and then go to Upload. Choose File, and now we can upload the index.html file right from our desktop. Yes. Overwrite it. I already had something up here I was messing around with. Now let me go over to my domain. And there it is. Just like that. So that should do it. Thanks for watching. Be sure to subscribe, rate, comment, like, all that good stuff.